All right. So, season 2, episode 4, New Nebu, is a very, very, very special episode. It was different. I don't know if you noticed, it was very different. It was the first episode that didn't take place inside of Haven. And the reason for that, the importance of that, is because what we had was a collection of players collab to create a very impactful action, a move, an endeavor. And when I saw what they were trying to do, I said, this is important. This is big. And I highly encourage any of you to do the same if that's something you're into. With that said, if you have friends who are into RPGs or things like this, whatever this is, right? Get them on board. Get them in the game. We have a lot of players in game right now who have invited other players, and you don't have to work together. But the more the merrier. In Makai's situation, he invited a player and his name is Vector, and now they're working together in game. And together they can achieve great things. They can also die together. It's an advantage as well. But it's all in the dice, right? So don't think that if you're flying solo, you're at a disadvantage. It's just those who are collaborating, they have more of a toolbox because they can leverage each other's abilities. But that's why we have NPCs. That's why we have G-types that people submitted. And that's why I do what I do, because I will tie people together if they need that. But anyway, Void Makai, Vector Issa, Ninja Bello, and a little bit of Shiro. They have all came together to establish rule in Nebu. Now, Nebu, Dorinthia, Torosol, the Thousand Islands, and Raylagar. These are places that exist outside of Haven, and that's as far as I want to go for now, because there's a lot to flesh out in Haven. The main hub, the main focus is Haven, but I decided that I do want to start building outside of Haven, because there's some things that are happening that I want to bring into fruition. So I decided to start that with building on Nebu, and I kind of alluded to that in the last season when in Makai's solo episode. But for now, that's the only thing that I'm working on at the moment. As far as countries outside of Haven goes. On the topic of inviting players to the game, that's a great thing. I highly encourage it. The more the merrier. But I also want to take this time to remind everyone, if it wasn't clear, that every player should only have one character to a universe. If you didn't know that, it's fine. If you're controlling 2 people, pick one, drop the other. It's fine. Right now, if you have 2 characters, this is your time to choose one and drop the other. No way would I want to spend time writing for one player. Writing 2 scenes for 2 characters controlled by one player when I could be writing for another player that could show up in an episode. That's not the direction I really want to go in. So again, if you're controlling 2 characters, drop one. Even if you were pretending that they were 2 people, 2 separate people, this is your time to drop one character. Going forward, I would consider it being deceptive. Off that note, this is a very political episode. It's very important. It's very important because of what's happening and what's going to happen. Makai Funuichi, Vector Issa, and Ninja Bello have all decided to establish Makai as sole leader in Nebu. Now, this is something that you would think would be easy, and it should be, because Makai is a holder of a chi beast. And in order to be a soul leader in Nebu, you have to be someone who can acquire and hold a chi beast. However, in Makai's absence, when he went to go fight the light and never returned, and there was a time skip when the cycle started over, remember, the instigator fast forwarded the ages of a select few characters. And those characters were Makai's daughter, Serenity Funoichi. Remember, Serenity Funoichi was one of 3 sisters that were adopted by some of the characters in the previous season. There was an event that took place in the previous season where I knew that there would be these 3 characters who would be very, very important plot devices to the story. And those characters were Serenity, Amelia, and Rose. And these were 3 children, 3 babies, that would be rewarded to whoever went to that event to adopt them. Makai and Tempest at the time were working together because they were allies. And they both decided to go and adopt these children. Makai adopted Serenity, Tempest adopted Amelia, who was that girl that we saw in the previous episode in the school when it was attacked by fire, Kai Excalibur. And then the 3rd child was Rose, who was adopted by Kai Excalibur. Well, kidnapped. He made off with Rose and killed some people, but we learn later on at the end of the first season that these 3 children are clones of the original G-Type 2. That G-Type 2 is Saoirse. Saoirse is a player who created a character, and because of the type of character she was, I decided that she would be a good fit for that G-Type 2, that special G-Type 2, that the first experiment, you could say, that was created by Deathtude. Remember, Deathtude created the G-Type 2, but she disappeared in the tank and they never found her again. And so the instigator created, to improve on that experiment, the instigator created these three girls. Now, Saoirse is a Dulaman, a race of people in Gamma Haven, white skin, red hair. And I thought that that would be very interesting and add some drama to what we're seeing going on in Nebu, because she is the adoptive daughter of Makai, and there are no Nebunese men or women who have a chi beast inside of them. With the support of the Nebula Council and Tempest, who has had a major influence on all peaceful people around the world, such as Nebu, they have placed Serenity Funoichi in a position that lets her lead in the absence of a chi beast holder. So here you have Serenity trying to lead a nation that is not of her own blood. And naturally, there are some people who aren't cool with that. And that's why you have some drama there. And we'll go further into that. But Serenity Funoichi is now 15 years old. The instigator accelerated their ages from the last cycle. He said, you know what, this cycle, I gotta speed up this process. Make them 15. So remember, they were babies in the last cycle. Make them 15. And that's why, if you recall, when Makai and Tempest finally met up again, Tempest showed Makai a picture of his daughter being 15. So you have Serenity leading the Nebu people, or at least trying to. She's having a very hard time. She's trying to convince everyone what the next best step is for Nebu. And the next best step is to take action and establish a force and move in on Haven, because Haven is chaotic, it's in disarray. It's every man for themselves. and she tries to persuade the people by showing them that they're not going to be safe forever. And anarchy and the darkness, the ugliness of Haven City casts a shadow over everyone in the world. And to show the people this, she shows them by showing one of the Gorgon bots, Anarchy's Gorgon bots that they discovered and captured. And she shows this to them like, look, Anarchy's watching us. He's going to make a move on us unless we make a move first. And it makes a lot of sense, but they're not hearing that. They're not trying to hear that. And one of the biggest spokesmen of those who oppose is a character named Amanda V. Amanda V is an NPC, is a G-type, a villainous G-type that TVG submitted. TVG is also the player of Jeremiah Oliver. I was looking for a villain to fulfill that role. Amanda V is a G-type who can manipulate snakes. And the way that he submitted her as a leader of a faction that exists in Haven. She is a criminal thug in Haven. So why is she in Nebu? Well, that's the spin that I put on it. I thought it would be cool if she can still be a thug in Haven. And that's why I said some things that, she has ties to the underground in Haven and imports and exports. This is kind of a prequel. This is kind of before she becomes what she was submitted as. She starts off as originally being from Nebu. So, Amanda V is a very, very powerful figure in Nebu. People respect her. But they also know that she's very, very shady because of those dealings. She's connected to Haven. And if you're from Haven, you're looked at sideways because everybody knows how corrupt one can become when living in Haven. Which is why Epony was sent there to prove something, but that's another story. So we have Amanda V and her tribe, Venomous, because that's the name of the faction that TVG submitted. But because her origins are cemented in Nebu now, Venomous is the tribe. And they're not having this Dula men leading us shit. So throughout the episode, you hear Amanda V like really, really stepping on her neck. Like she's not having this shit. And you kind of have to see her perspective. Whoever came up with the rule that this person who is not Nebunese can hold the seat while Makai is gone, it's bullshit. And Amanda V is not having it. So Amanda V, she brings up the fact that she threatens her, saying, you're going to step down when I get a hold of a chi beast. Because apparently she's capable of such. In the trials of the wolf being one of the chi beasts, is something that Amanda V is looking forward to, because Amanda V knows that if she acquires that chi beast, she's getting Serenity the fuck out of there, and she's leading Nebu. So I really, really thought it would be fun to, make that the wedge by, having Serenity being another race. That wasn't something that was cemented until now. We've always just said Makai adopted her. And honestly, in my head, I always envisioned her as being Dorinthian or Nebunese because Makai adopted her. But if she's a clone of the G-Type 2, I thought, hold up, she should be the same race. I mean, she don't have to be, but let's add some spice to this drama. So she's going to be redheaded, porcelain white skin like all Dulaman, like Myra, like Saoirse, So, Amanda V, we see Amanda V, she's like, shut the fuck up. You're not leading us. Granted the idea that, Serenity makes a great point. They are not safe. That's the second Gorgon bot, or one of many Gorgon bots that they've discovered. But even though the idea is great and her motives are justified, Amanda V's like, no, I'm going to make that decision. So things get a little hostile, and we are introduced to Vector, who has been someone who has been appointed to protect Serenity in the Nebu Council. And we see Vector come forth. Now, Vector is a powerful figure, one of the most dangerous warriors in Haven. He was raised and bred to be one of the most powerful fighters in Haven. And that's why he was appointed, in Nebu. And that's why he was appointed that position. And the reason he is so powerful is not only has his gamma mutation manifested in the form of mega intelligence, but he also has a talisman. His family is of wealth. And that probably didn't contribute to how he gained that position, but it kind of adds to his notoriety, his renown. Not only is he a powerful warrior, but obviously he's an aristocrat as well. But more importantly, he has what is called the Shaman's Talisman. The Shaman's Talisman is an ability, it's an item, okay? And with this item comes a few features. The power of shamans of old give him the ability to manipulate gravity, okay? Possess his enemies, and also possess the combative abilities of the shamans of old, the combat prowess. Now that's 3 different abilities, right? Packaged into one. He knows this, and I made sure that he understands that when you have an ability that is kind of multiple things, you are at a disadvantage against someone who would specialize in that. And more on that later. So he has a special amulet that, think of it like the Power Rangers, that the morphers, you become something else. And with this shaman's amulet on, he is essentially possessed with all of the shamans of old. Anyway, he steps forth and he gets people in line by manipulating gravity and applying pressure to them to quiet them down. But they are so not having this Serenity as a leader that doesn't even quell them. And that scene was to show how dire the situation is. We see Vector even thinking to himself, like, I don't know how long this is going to last, because people have been trying to get her the fuck out of there. They've been trying to even kill her, and that's what's scary about it all. And Serenity, she only does this to make her father proud, something that she knows her father would have wanted. But she is frightened. Granted, she's a great leader, but that's because she was bred, she was raised into that. That is not something that she probably would want to do if she didn't have to. And she seems to be scared. She seems to be very scared of Amanda V. Amanda V, if I wasn't able to kind of portray it, Amanda V is a very scary person. Very scary person. Very powerful, very strong woman. So, fast forward, Makai returns. So, we also see that Vector has a special group with him of hooded men. And we learn that these hooded men is Shiro Aoi. Because in a part of Shiro's submission, he sends his clones out to provide support and to travel and to study abroad. And so they are with Vector. So we see Vector and his special group of people that are all clones of Shiro. And Shiro has been in contact with Makai, because remember in the last episode, Shiro, Looper Ken, and Makai were assisting the Gate Center keep things under, to helping them keep things under control during Grenfall. So Shiro has been giving Vector, he gave Vector a heads up. Makai's alive, and Vector knew this. He was probably told by Shiro prior to all of this. But Makai's alive and he's on his way. Make sure your people know. And sure enough, Makai comes flying in on his Chi Beast dragon, and for the first time, he meets his daughter since he departed from her in the last season. The last time Makai saw his daughter, she was a baby, and he handed her off to, I believe it was his grandmother. This was right around the time when Makai was reincarnated into Tetsuya's body. Tetsuya is the Beast King, one of the legendary Beast Kings. His body was saved somewhere, sanctified and holy, preserved. And through the graces of Ivan Bakara, by way of Makai's father, who Ivan Bakara has his soul as well, Makai's father told Ivan to allow Makai to be reincarnated in the body of his Nebu ancestors, Tetsuya. But anyway, last time Makai saw his daughter, he returned to Nebu in the last season. He met with his grandmother. She cleansed him a bit of the darkness. He stayed home. He unwound a bit, watched the parade. And then that's when the light came. And he told everyone, I got business to handle in Haven. And he went to go fight the light. So Makai meets his daughter. She's all grown up. And she doesn't know who he is because he's in Tetsuya's body, but she senses, she kind of connects the dots. She was held at one point. She was held by Ivan Bakara. This is back when Makai had his clan, the Roaring Dragons, and they were at the clan base where they were keeping Serenity, the baby. It was their headquarters. And Ivan invaded, and there was a scene where Makai entered, and Ray Lagar forces invaded the Roaring Dragons base, because this was right after R-Type X killed Makai. R-Type X then sent Ray Lagarian forces to take over. But at the same time, Ivan Bakara was also invading as well. And that was a crazy encounter, but Ivan Bakara held Serenity in his arms, and she associated that darkness, that abyssal, that void, the smell of it, the scent of it. It kind of triggered in her head when she got into the proximity of Makai. And she also remembers Makai holding her before he went to go fight the light. And she immediately knew who he was. We then see a scene where Vector and Makai are bonding. They're cousins, but they're like brothers. They grew up together. And using his mega intelligence, Vector is explaining to Makai, you know what you need to do. You need to become the leader. And Makai knows this. But it felt great with Vector reassuring him that it's possible. He fills him in on everything that has happened. He kind of explains to Makai that your daughter has been running it. He keeps it real with her. She hasn't been the best leader, but her heart's in the right place. And even when she does make great leader moves, it's not appreciated. You got to become leader or they're going to kill her. And Makai, it hurts him to hear this because he knows what it's like. Makai is his father is from Nebu. His mother's from Nebu. His father is Dorinthian. So he's half and half. So he knows what it's like to not be full-blooded Nebunese. Maybe he's been treated differently when he was younger. But luckily he's just so awesome that it never really affected him. So it hurts him to hear what his daughter's going through. And he's like, I'm going to become leader. And Vector reminds him like, hey, if you are going to become leader, that's great. But just keep in mind that your daughter has been working on something and you should continue that. And Makai, he considers it. And what she was working on was moving in on Haven to establish power, because Haven is in chaos right now and they want to move in. So when I had the players of Vector, Makai, and Ninja all submit that they were doing this, I immediately thought, this is going to be important. Why? Because I'm going to make it so that Nebu is going to try to establish power in Haven. So, granted, Makai is someone who is deserving of the role, the position, and he's entitled because he is a beast holder. It's politics. And that's where the support comes in, because you have Vector, who is knee deep in these things, and he submitted that he's going to assist Makai in convincing the council to make Makai the leader. That's when we learned that there are some things working against Makai. I take everything into consideration. Everything. Rarely will I forget something. I used to be confused by Makai's character. I used to feel like he didn't know which direction he wanted to go in. And he would tell you this too. When we first started, he couldn't tell if he wanted to be this or that. And that's why R-Type killed him. But he kind of had this weird, he was Dorinthian, but later on he was Nebu. He was more so focusing on the Dorinthian thing with the blood, the roaring dragons, and his father Nagin. And then he kind of started going more to the Nebu thing. I don't know if he was inspired by Black Panther. If that's why. I'm kind of turning it into his own thing now. But with every detail, there will be consequences. You tell Makai wants to become the leader of Nebu. Well, you're not full Nebunese. You are half Dorinthian, and that works. And that is working against him. The council explained that not only have you been gone for a long time and you've been tainted by Haven, they don't even know about his abyssal origins. You got to remember, Makai, he's the most tainted motherfucker in all of Nebu in ways they can't even imagine. They think that because he came from Haven, he's corrupted. He's corrupted in a half, but in a different way. He was killed and sold his soul, or bargained with Ivan to place his life force into a body. When R-Type X killed Makai, he destroyed a part of Makai's soul, because that's what Aiza Dawagia, it attacks your spirit. He destroyed a good portion of Makai's soul. So when Makai bargained with Ivan Bakara to be brought back to life, Ivan had to kind of tie his soul back together with an abyssal energy, and that was what his grandmother was trying to cleanse him of. But he can't get rid of that. So the council fears that he's been corrupted, and Makai, he can assure, Makai is a good person. And he's not concerned about being corrupted by Haven, but what he keeps to himself is the fact that he is tainted by the abyss. and he is under contract by Ivan. But not only that, but there is some hesitation because some people believe, and there's rumors that Makai isn't even full-blooded Nebanese.
Oh, that's ridiculous.
They want the birth certificate. But Makai has a great support system. One of the things one needs to become a sole leader of Nebu is a patron tribe, a tribe that's going to march to the throne with him. And naturally, Vector was down, and Makai chose Vector. The Pantho tribe is what Vector Issa is a part of. Very powerful and renowned tribe. So then that brings on the question, Makai, in a playful matter, he says, well, how do I know you can even protect me and stand at the throne with me? Like, you're looking a bit out of shape, sir. And that's when we have the scene where Makai and Vector are sparring. Now, I rolled it. I roll everything. Vector's rank is average. Makai is exceptional. So you saw the numbers. Anything under the middle number is a yes. Anything above the middle number is a no.
Hi, Fred. How's the old golf game? Don't ask. 6 inches is known.
But it was a great scene nonetheless. The whole point was to show that Vector had some abilities, and he wanted to show Makai what he was capable of. Was there a slight chance that Vector could have been successful? Absolutely. That would have been amazing. But that wasn't the case. And because it was just a sparring match, Makai wasn't out to kill him or completely body him. So Makai was giving him some room to see his ability, and that's why Vector was probably landing punches and, showing that. Makai, as you saw, had an advantage with his combat mastery. Now, Vector's Shaman Talisman gives him combat prowess, but that was just a part of the main ability, which was the talisman that bestows multiple things: gravity manipulation, body possession, and then combat prowess. So this is a perfect example of why you should specialize. Your ability should be specific, like I asked. But there are exceptions that can be made. And when those exceptions are made, players just need to understand that the advantage is going to go to the person who just chose that. So combat mastery is a combat ability, and is the entire ability that Makai had. And that was an advantage because he was more of a focused fighter. Wealth doesn't come into play, not in a sparring match. And of course, mega intelligence, but combat mastery is knowing all of how to handle yourself in a situation, knowing all of the martial arts and how to counter, and knowing what's being used on you. So Makai ended up getting that as an advantage. And this was displayed when he was blocking everything with one hand, and he was able to overwhelm Vector with some attacks, and just overall not be much. Vector wasn't much of a threat to Makai when it came to combat because of that advantage. Granted, his rank was high, but I really wanted to kind of display that when it came to combat, Makai he didn't have to worry about losing. So why didn't I just show Makai beating up Vector in a sparring match, finishing him with a judo flip or some shit? Why did I end it with Vector essentially being poisoned after possessing Kai's body? Now, Makai's body is, again, tainted with the abyss. his own soul is inside of this body. And that body is the only reason that body is even able to be host to, the reason he's able to be host or control that body is because that body is sanctified. And Ivan made it so. So when Vector possessed the body, some of that abyssal energy, that void, ended up transferring to him. And it gave him a cancer. And he spit up, started coughing, choking, blood coming out of his mouth, and he collapsed. Why did I do that? Well, because the player Ninja Bello is a geneticist. And she's the best that Nebu has. Her submission stated that she would assist Makai in becoming the leader by pretty much sweetening the deal and working on him to make him resistant to genetic modification, such as becoming an abomination or any mass mutation. All that weird shit that happens in Haven everywhere. And, every G-type who has a gamma mutation has the risk of mutating out of control. But she can do that. She can fix that. If you recall, she was mentioned in a previous episode when Pope Turner was going through a bunch of files in the Instigator's facility of all the G-types that were shelved. She was a G-type that at one point in time was such an issue for the Instigator because she was manipulating people's genetics that it was damaging his work. His work is all about genetics. So she was shelved. So here she is. In her submission, she was going to help him by making him resistant to mass mutation, and that would in turn make the council feel to not worry about him mutating and becoming corrupted. So I made Vector sick to bring her in, to take us to that hospital scene that would introduce us to Ninja Bello. That's why that happened. That was the segue. We are introduced to Ninja Bello. Now, who is Ninja Bello? Now, Ninja Bello is a Solian woman. Solian are the sand, people from the sand, bronze skinned. The only other Solian player, I believe, there's a couple, but the one that we were first introduced and one who actually created the race was Seth Masters. That was that sniper that was helping Looper Ken in season 1. He had the fancy shoes that allowed him to pretty much run on the air. But anyway, Ninja Bello was a scientist that was in the labs that Makai raided. In season 1, Makai and the Blood Dragons raided Bloodvein Dynasty's labs. Remember, him and Noggin attacked the labs, and that's where they acquired the technology to create the Energy suits. Ninja Bello was one of the scientists. This is something the player submitted, and I love that, by the way. For a player, think of how, that's so much respect for a player to come into the game, pay attention to the story, catch up on the story, read the wiki, and find and plug her character in using lore that already exists. When Ninja Bello joined the game, she said, and she probably had Makai probably filled her in, which is great. Because again, I don't expect people to know everything that's happening. I expect them to kind of create their own path or network and learn things from other players. But she said that she was one of the scientists in Bloodvein that were acquired along with the technology. So when Makai and Bloodvein wiped out that lab, they took some of the scientists and their secrets. Ninja Bello was one of them. So we learned that she's been in Nebu nations helping them. And she says that she will help Makai by working on his DNA, reinforcing his DNA, if he makes her the lead geneticist and gives her her own lab when he becomes the leader of Nebu. And Makai says yes, because Ninja Bello is someone who's stuck beside Serenity and has assisted her in her endeavors. So that's how we're introduced to Ninja Bello, another part of the support system that Makai gets. It was beautiful. I really love the submission that they all submitted. And I hope to see more of that. But to those who fly solo, that's great as well. It's my job to make all of that shit fire. And I will. So in the last scene, you know, Makai, he's been worked on by Ninja. He has a patron tribe that's going to walk to the throne with him and back him up in his race for the throne. And he's like, there's nothing stopping me. You know, everybody pretty much knows that Makai is going to be the sole leader. Because there's no other sole leaders. It's him and Serenity. So their combined goal was to have Makai become the sole leader of Nebu. You saw the dice roll. Anything under a 90 on a D100 was a yes. Yo. I even counted, you know, he had support from his people and he was a Chi Beast holder. These were bonuses that I gave. So I felt like these were things that would make it so. When I rolled that and saw that it was no, as a director, I was so excited. I was so excited when that shit said no. Because that's crazy. And it made it way more exciting. So when it said no, in my head, I'm like, damn, shit's getting real. Like, because when I was writing this, I was writing it in a way that some people would understand why there's opposition. Amanda V's not wrong in wanting to do what, you know, going for the throne. So it allowed me to kind of dwell on it a little bit longer by him being unsuccessful. So then I think, okay, well, what has to happen now? What has to happen now? Oh, well, first I do want to say that I kind of alluded to the fact that maybe Amanda V did something with the voting. But also the people just didn't want to have a leader who was half Nebu, not full Nebu, but also had a daughter that was Dorinthia, that was Dolaman, who could potentially end up running the country again if he disappears again. So their reason for their reasons for not wanting him to be leader of Nebu, I thought were justified. I thought they were justified. You know, these people, you know, he was gone for a while. Okay. So they determined that they were not going to vote him in. Instead, going to give, because the trial of the wolf is in a day or two. They're going to let the trials of the wolf happen. Let Amanda V fight Makai for the acquiring of the wolf Chi Beast. In my head, I'm like, this is going to be another great event. Well, it's going to be a story phase because I'm still thinking about that. And the winner is going to get the wolf Chi Beast. So back to what I was telling Makai, you know, he's telling me about all the Chi Beasts that his character is going to acquire. I told him, I said, hey man, don't think too far ahead. I will give Amanda V that Chi Beast if she's successful. I will. I'll do it. If you lose, you lose. You're gonna fight Makai Mfinoichi is being challenged for the throne. He's being challenged for the Chi Beast in the Wolf Trials. If Amanda V gets that Wolf Chi Beast, she is now on even playing field with becoming sole leader of Nebu. And people already don't really fuck with Makai like that because of his origins. So she has a good chance of being voted in as leader of Nebu. And she's not a good person. She's right in what she's doing, but she's slimy and she has ties to the underground in Haven, as TVG submitted her as so. Amanda V is technically the first major villain of a character. And that's why I love P&D. Because something that someone submitted, TVG didn't know she was going to be picked, but it fit. And so I put her in that role. This is like Kai's Dr. Octopus. This is his Vulture. This is his Venom. What's even cooler, I was thinking about this the other day, she manipulates snakes. What Chi Beast does Makai have right now? The Nebu Basilisk. TVG created a villain character meant for this role. Meant for it. I'm looking forward to the continuation of that. I hope all of you are. I hope you also enjoyed the episode. I was taking a risk, but I'm setting the table. It's very important why this is happening. Trust me, please. I love Void Makai's character. I don't think anyone has gone through as much character development as Void Makai. He's going through some shit. Love that fucking character. Love that player. His imagination is crazy. His dedication, his role playing. His character has been through some shit. What would happen next?